Hey, Brian from Snake Bites here. Today's show is all about the milk snake. You're watching Snake Bites. I've been keeping milk snakes since I was 17 years old. There's just something about that black, yellow, and red pattern that's always attracted them to me. As a matter of fact, it's one of my dreams to one day see these beautiful animals in the wild. They're endemic to North, Central, and Northern South America, and there's 24 species of milk snake. What I find interesting is how they got the name milk snake. Believe it or not, way back when, farmers used to think they'd crawl up to cows, attach themselves to others, and suck the milk out. Of course, we know that's not true, and milk snakes are a perfect example of mimicry. So let's go ahead and ask Dr. Bibblebabble a little more about that.
Milk snakes have a striking resemblance to the venomous coral snake, and this resemblance is a great example of mimicry, known as Bostonian mimicry, likely to scare away potential predators. While both milk snakes and coral snakes possess transverse bands of red, black, and yellow, a common mnemonic can be used to properly distinguish between the deadly coral snake and the harmless milk snake. Red next to yellow is a deadly fellow, red next to black is a friend of Jack's, meaning that if the red touches yellow, it's a venomous snake, and if the red touches black, it's a harmless snake.
What was the first milk snake that Brian ever owned? A. Pueblo milk snake, B. Sinaloan milk snake, or C. Honduran milk snake? Go ahead and answer down below in the comments and check back later in the show to see if you've got the correct answer. In this week's Reptile Report Spotlight, we're going to be highlighting giant pythons. Go ahead and check out the URL down below or click on the link in the description. Puebloan milk snakes happen to be one of the most commonly kept milk snakes because they're really hardy animals and do extremely well in captivity. Now, they only get about 36 to 40 inches long, which makes them one of the smaller species as well, but they readily accept pinky mice right off the bat, and they grow super fast. They also reproduce extremely well. An adult female like this is going to have anywhere from 6 to 8 eggs, and believe it or not, she could even triple clutch in a year. So it's really a high production type animal. Now, they basically come in a few different color phases. This would be the normal Campbell eye or just regular Puebloan milk snake, and that's going to have the red, black, and almost white banding. Now, there's something that's called an apricot Puebloan here that's going to have the orangish bands or an apricot color, and that's why they call them apricots. Now, there's a few polymorphic genes that people have been working on, ourselves included, such as this Oreo Puebloan, and basically it's exactly as it sounds. We're trying to reduce the red and make it a basically black and yellow snake. Now, Sinaloan milks happen to be one of the second or third most commonly kept milk snakes as well. They're much more red than, say, a Puebloan, and these are called triads right here. Basically, that red, black, and yellow is considered a triad. Now, there's another snake I'm going to show you in a minute called a Nelson's milk snake that looks strikingly similar to a Sinaloan milk snake, but the difference is that the Nelsons have more triads. Sinaloans typically have 13 or less red bands, making them a Sinaloan. Now, these guys are from Central America. They get a little larger than the Puebloan milk snakes, probably maxing out at about 4.5 or even 5 foot. Now, they're not nearly as productive when it comes to the amount of clutches that they have, but they'll have up to 2 clutches a year, and I've even had as many as 12 eggs in a clutch. They're certainly a beautiful snake, but you can see they're a little more squirmy than some of the other milk snakes too. And this is a Nelson's milk snake. Again, you can see how similar they look to a Sinaloan, but if you notice, those red bands, the triads, are much more skinny. Again, these guys are going to have over 13 triads, most typically anywhere from 18 to 21. They pretty much have the exact same care as a Sinaloan, and they range in very similar areas. As a matter of fact, a lot of people just feel that they're just the same animal, just ranging into different areas of Central America. But what's cool about the Nelsons is there's a few paint jobs that are really beautiful. The albinos were the first real albino milk snake that came onto the market, and man, did they come out huge. A guy named Doug Moody spontaneously produced an albino Nelson's milk snake, and then people stood in line to pay him $2,000 a piece for those babies. And guess what? I was one of those guys that paid the big bucks. But the good news is they're now really affordable and typically sell for under $100. But again, look at how beautiful that albino Nelson's milksnake is. Now, the other mutation that's a relatively new one that came out is what they call a T-positive or tyrosinase positive Nelson's milksnake. Now, tyrosinase is just a type of melanin, but it's not the black of a normal melanin. It's more of that purplish brown look. It almost looks hypomelanistic, but it happens to be what they call an allelic animal, which basically just means that both this mutation and the albino mutation appear on the same allele. So when you produce from a T-positive to a normal albino, half the babies come out T-positive. That's pretty cool. Now, another really cool smaller species of milksnake, but still very hardy, is the Mexican milksnake. And obviously, they're from Central America, Mexico, hence the namesake. But it's kind of neat because they only stay about 20 to 24 inches, but they're still really good producers. I typically have anywhere from 6 to 9 eggs twice a year from these guys. Now, the babies hatch out a little bit small, but they typically eat frozen pinkies right off the bat. In the worst case scenario, they might need lizard scenting for the first couple meals, and then they completely take off. And as you can see with these guys, they have quite a few triads, but what's neat is their head is jet black up until the first yellow triad. So they're kind of different than the Pueblans and the Sinaloans or the Nelson's milksnakes. Now, this is one cool milksnake right here. You don't see these in very many collections, although they're extremely hardy and a great snake. These are called Conant's milksnake, and again, they just aren't very common. A famous herpetologist named Roger Conant is the one that founded these guys, and of course, he put his name on them. Now, they're kind of a cross between a Mexican milk and a Sinaloan in my eyes. They stay small like the Mexican milk, and they kind of have the pattern of a Sinaloan, but they have that jet black head just like a Mexican milk. These guys also only produce about 6 to 8 eggs per year and rarely double clutch for us. But again, they're a really hardy animal and certainly a beautiful snake. Let's move on to some of the monster milk snakes, and I'd be talking about Hondurans. Now, these guys are one of the biggest species of milk snakes, getting almost 6 feet in length, and you can see much more girthy than the other milk snakes I've shown you. Also, you notice that the color is a little bit different too. They don't have that yellow triad. That's because there's actually 2 color phases that are naturally occurring. Animals like this, which are more of the tangerine phase or the tricolor phase, that still does range in Central America. Now, when bred together, you can produce some really outrageous tangerine animals. But what makes Hondurans so incredible is the fact that there's some really cool paint jobs out there that have cropped up in the last 15 years. Of course, I've told you about the albino Hondurans before, and I was fortunate enough to be the first person in the US to ever breed them. And this happens to be a gorgeous tangerine albino. Now, Hondurans will lay anywhere from 6 to 14 eggs, and they will double clutch each year. But man, just take a look at that animal. That thing is beautiful. And again, an albino is basically just lacking the black pigment. But I want to take a look at a few other mutations. This happens to be the exact opposite of that albino right there. It's lacking the red pigment and has all of the black pigment. Now, that's called aneurystic. And again, that just means the lack of iridophore. And iridophore is the red pigment in animals. But again, the aneurystic's are truly gorgeous snakes. And I was lucky enough to be the first guy to buy into that project after Dave Doherty produced the very first ones. Now, when you combine the 2 animals together, the aneurystic and the albino, you end up with something that's gorgeous like this. It's called a snow. So again, this is lacking the red pigment and the black pigment. It's got that peachy, just beautiful look to it. I absolutely love the snows. Now, it's a double recessive mutation, so it takes a while to get it. It's a 1 in 16 odds to hit that animal. Now, there's another mutation out there that's called hypomelanistic that basically just means that it's lacking most of the black pigment, but it's not an albino because there's enough black pigment there to still make it a melanistic animal. Now, what it does is it cleans it up tremendously. Those black bands turn kind of a grayish purple, and there's hardly any tipping on the animal, which makes it absolutely gorgeous. Again, this is a recessive mutation, and then when you take the anuthristic and breed it into the hypomelanistic, you get an animal like this that's called a ghost Honduran. Again, it's a double recessive mutation, so it's that 1 in 16 odds, but you'll get a hypomelanistic anuthristic, or called a ghost. I tell you what, Hondurans are unbelievably cool and colorful animals. Well, certainly one of my favorite milk snakes happens to look nothing like a milk snake whatsoever. That's right, this is really, truly a milk snake, but they call him a black milk snake. And believe it or not, when they're born, they're just like the other ones I've shown you. They're red, black, and yellow triads, but as they grow, they turn jet black. And again, they're a lot like the Hondurans. They're a really big species of milk snake, getting over 6 feet in length. Now, most people think the reason that they get darker as they get older is they're actually found in higher elevations, and of course, the darker pigment is going to soak up the sun a lot more, keeping them warm and giving them an opportunity to thermal regulate. But what a gorgeous snake, isn't it? Just that glossy jet black. So if you guys are thinking about getting a cool colubrid snake, don't look over milk snakes, because as you can see, there's a variety of different sizes, colors, and cool paint jobs. I tell you what, I'm a milk snake fan, and I hope you guys are too now. What was the first milk snake that Brian ever owned? If you said A, Pueblo milk snake, you're 100% correct. Good job. If you want to save your reptiles, get serious, get ZooMed. To check out all their product line, visit zoomed.com.
Alright guys, today we talked about milk snakes, so the question is going to be an easy one. What do you prefer, chocolate milk or strawberry milk? Leave a comment below and let us know.
So there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the show and now have a new appreciation for these amazing milk snakes. I'm actually leaving for Australia on an awesome animal adventure. If you want to follow along, just make sure to hit me up over on Facebook and Twitter at SnakeBytesTV. Until next week, you've been watching Snake Bites.